Motivational stories. Strongest dad in the world. I try to be a good father. Give my kids mulligans. Work nights to pay for their text messaging. Take them to swimsuit shoots. But compared with Dick Hoyt, I suck. 85 times he has pushed his disabled son, Rick, 26.2 miles in marathons. 8 times he has not only pushed him 26.2 miles in a wheelchair but also towed him 2.5 miles in a dinghy while swimming and pedaled him 112 miles in a seat on the handlebars, all in the same day. Dix also pulled him cross country skiing, taken him on his back mountain climbing, and once hauled him across the US on a bike. Makes taking your son bowling look a little lame, right? And what has Rick done for his father? Not much, except save his life. This love story began in Winchester, Mass. 43 years ago, when Rick was strangled by the umbilical cord during birth, leaving him brain damaged and unable to control his limbs. He will be a vegetable the rest of his life. Dick says doctors told him and his wife, Judy, when Rick was 9 months old, put him in an institution. But the Hoyts weren't buying it. They noticed the way Rick's eyes followed them around the room. When Rick was 11, they took him to the engineering department at Tufts University and asked if there was anything to help the boy communicate. No way, Dick says. He was told there is nothing going on in his brain. Tell him a joke, Dick countered. They did. Rick laughed. Turns out a lot was going on in his brain, rigged up with a computer that allowed him to control the cursor by touching a switch with the side of his head. Rick was finally able to communicate first words, Go Bruins, and after a high school classmate was paralyzed in an accident and the school organized a charity run for him. Rick pecked out, Dad, I want to do that. Yeah, right. How was Dick? A self described porker who never ran more than a mile at a time, going to push his son 5 miles. Still, he tried. Then it was me who was handicapped, Dick says. I was sore for 2 weeks. That day changed Rick's life. Dad, he typed when we were running it, felt like I wasn't disabled anymore. And that sentence changed Dick's life. He became obsessed with giving Rick that feeling as often as he could. He got into such hard belly shape that he and Rick were ready to try the 1979 Boston Marathon. No way, Dick was told by race official. The Hoyts weren't quite a single runner and they weren't quite a wheelchair competitor. For a few years, Dick and Rick just joined the massive field and ran anyway. Then they found a way to get into the race officially. In 1983, they ran another marathon so fast they made the qualifying time for Boston the following year. Then somebody said, Hey Dick, why not a triathlon? How is a guy who never learned to swim and hadn't ridden a bike since he was 6 going to haul his 110-pound kid through a triathlon? Still, Dick tried. Now they have done 212 triathlons, including 4 grueling 15-hour Ironmans in Hawaii. It must be a buzzkill to be a 25-year-old stud getting passed by an old guy towing a grown man in a dinghy, don't you think? Hey Dick, why not see how you would do on your own? No way, he says. Dick does it purely for the awesome feeling he gets seeing Rick with a cantaloupe smile as they run, swim, and ride together. This year, at ages 65 and 43, Dick and Rick finished their 24th Boston Marathon in 5083rd place out of more than 20,000 starters. Their best time 2 hours 40 minutes in 1992, only 35 minutes of the world record, which, in case you don't keep track of these things, happens to be held by a guy who was not pushing another man in a wheelchair at the time. No question about it, Rick types. My dad is the father of the century, and Dick got something else out of all these too. 2 years ago, he had a mild heart attack during a race. Doctors found that one of his arteries was 95% clogged. If you hadn't been in such great shape, one doctor told him, you probably would have died 50 years ago. So, in a way, Dick and Rick saved each other's life. Rick, who has his own apartment, he gets home care and works in Boston, and Dick, retired from the military and living in Holland, must always find ways to be together. They give speeches around the country and compete in some back-breaking race every weekend, including this Father's Day. That night, Rick will buy his dad dinner, but the thing he really wants to give him is a gift he can never buy. The thing I would most like, Rick types, is that my dad sit in the chair and I push him once. Successful sales manager. A friend of mine is a very successful sales manager. After he had carefully interviewed and then selected a new salesman, he would take to the salesman to a Cadillac dealership and insist that he trade in his old car for a new Cadillac. The salesman would usually balk at the idea. He would be frightened of the cost of the car and the huge monthly payment involved, but the sales manager would insist that he buy the Cadillac as a condition of employment. Successful sales manager, what do you think happened afterwards? First, the salesman would drive the car home, and wife would most have a heart attack when he saw that he had bought a new Cadillac. But after she had settled down, he would take her for a ride around the neighborhood in the new car. The neighbors would see them driving in a new Cadillac as he waved on the way past. He would park his new Cadillac in front of his house or in his driveway. People would come over and admire it. Gradually, imperceptibly, at a subconscious level, his attitude toward himself and his earning potential would begin to change. Within a few days, he would begin to see himself as the kind of a person who drove a new Cadillac. He would see himself as a big money earner in his field, one of the top performers in his industry. And time after time, almost without fail, the sales people in this organization became sales superstars. Their sales performance jumped and they earned more than they had ever before. Soon the payment on the new Cadillac were of no concern because their incomes were so much greater.